Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today. In a previous video, I talked about the spiritual miseducation of the black woman. And in this video, I want to talk about how that spiritual miseducation leads to her laying a foundation on sinking sands that winds up destroying everything around her. Now, your average black girl winds up getting a spiritual miseducation early in her life. And that spiritual miseducation she gets early in her life is something she is taught by her black single mother and by your black pastor. And what your little black girl doesn't know is that your black single mother and your black pastor have made friends with Mammon, and because they are more concerned about the cares of this world than the cares of the living God, they do not care about the girl's soul or preparing that girl's soul for service to Christ. And because your black girls are not taught early on from a young age about the role of a woman in God's natural order, where they need to learn how to be a helpmeet and a support to men, they are taught a pseudo-Christianity in these black churches, and because they are taught about a false Christ, instead of them having a foundation built on the rock of Jesus Christ, they have a foundation built on sinking sands. And these sands, they oftentimes shift, and if rain comes down on those sands, they turn into quicksand. And as these black girls are growing up in this spiritual miseducation, they are turning into women with a foundation built on sinking sand. And this is something that winds up impacting the lives of anyone who gets involved with them, especially black men, because any black man out here who wants to have a relationship with any of these spiritually miseducated black women winds up not being able to build anything at all, because anything you build on a foundation of sand, what happens is it winds up sinking in the sands, and if it's quicksand, it winds up being sunk to the bottom of what is under there. And that what happens is, because it's built on this soft foundation, nothing can stand of substance. And this is why anything a black man tries to do with many of these black women never amounts to anything, because she usually winds up destroying everything, because her foundation is not built on the rock of Jesus Christ. No, it is built on the foundation of mammon and built on the cares of this world. So instead of that woman being focused on spiritual things like thinking about being that helpmeet and that support to that man and helping that man actualize his potential so that they can both have an abundant life, it is more about what she covets and what she wants from the world. And because her eyes are more focused on the world than God's natural order, what happens is this female destroys everything in her path, because she wants the things of the world more than God himself. And this is why these spiritually miseducated women are very dangerous for any righteous man to get involved with, because if he gets involved with one of these spiritually miseducated women, then anything he tries to do, she is going to sabotage and she is going to destroy, because every time you try to do something, she's always got her eyes on the world, and because she has her eyes more on the world than serving Christ, then what she does is she takes everything you work for and tries to find ways to get rid of it so she can go be a part of that world. And again, that spiritual foundation that she has is not a solid foundation. And that's why it's almost impossible to build with a female who is out here and has been spiritually miseducated, because a miseducated woman does not know about her role in God's natural order. And because she does not know about her role in God's natural order, she is trying to make a role that man has made for her work in God's natural order. And this is where your feminists come in, because your feminist has told this black woman she can be strong and independent and does not need a man, and she can still serve the living God. And you cannot reconcile those two concepts. You cannot be strong and independent in an order where God has already established a man to be your leader and a man to be your authority figure. If you do not respect his leadership and his authority and refuse to submit to his leadership and authority, then how can you be a part of the order? Because women who want to be a part of God's natural order understand from minute one that they have to be a rock, and that's being laid with that spiritual foundation built on the rock of Jesus Christ is what makes them someone a man wants to make a wife. Because a man knows that if he gets involved with a woman whose foundation is built on the rock, will be someone who will help him build something that will last in this life and the next life. Because the only way to build anything of substance is on the foundation of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the provider of our needs. But the only way for us to get our needs provided for by Jesus Christ and God and have our foundation be solid, again, is with a woman who understands her spiritual foundation has to be built on that rock. And the reason why many women, again, don't have their foundation built on the rock is due to that spiritual miseducation by that black pastor who has this female following a false Christ. And this false Christ looks and sounds like Jesus Christ, but it is not Jesus Christ, and it is not the way in God's natural order. Because in God's natural order, all of the women have been taught about their role from an early age, and they understand how important their role is in God's natural order. They understand that if they are to submit to their husbands, they understand that they have to get with the program of a man who wants to build. And you cannot get with the program of a man who knows nothing about building if you are out here with a spiritual miseducation. Because the spiritually miseducated woman, what she does is think she can go out here and apply worldly concepts. And when she applies these worldly concepts, again, everything she builds is on sinking sands, and eventually any man who builds with her winds up with everything he has worked for destroyed and sucked down into a hole of quicksand. So everything he's building is going to be destroyed because his female, it does not have a spiritual foundation built on that rock. Because anything built on the rock of Jesus Christ will not fall. Anything built on the rock of Jesus Christ will not break, because it is built on a foundation based on solid ground. The ground is solid because the woman has a spiritual education. And this all goes back to that old African proverb, which says a race can rise no higher than the moral position of its women, and as those women go, so goes your race. And because your black woman has no foundation on the rock of Jesus Christ, this is why your race is sinking into the sand, because she does not have that spiritual foundation in Jesus Christ due to the spiritual miseducation she has received in these black churches by that black pastor and that black single mother who reinforces that miseducation as she teaches this dysfunctional culture to her little black girls who grow up to become spiritually lost black women. And the reason why they become spiritually lost black women is because your black pastor refuses to lay that spiritual education and teach that spiritual education from minute one. And your black single mother also refuses to teach that spiritual education she needs from minute one. Because in order to be a woman who would be someone a man would want to take for a wife, a woman needs a spiritual education. And that spiritual education is something that needs to be taught just as soon as that child is born, and it needs to be modeled and reinforced in the home, because that's how a girl gets her spiritual education. And with that spiritual education, then she is established on the rock of Jesus Christ, and that allows her to lay that spiritual foundation that allows her to find that righteous man to take for a husband and build her family with and build a life with, rooted in Jesus Christ and the living God. That is the life that a person who is a follower of God wants to have. They want to have a life rooted and built on a foundation on the rock. They want that rock, they want to be on that rock, because anything on the rock will not fall, anything on the rock will stand solid, and anything on the rock will be there for all time. So you want that spiritual foundation, but the only way, again, to get that spiritual foundation is with a woman who has been spiritually educated. And this is the big problem with most black women today, is they're not thinking about their spiritual education. They're more caught up in getting an academic education in the world. They're more caught up in getting these degrees, and they're more caught up in trying to be a part of this world instead of focusing on the next world and their relationship with Jesus Christ. Because everything about this world is about us learning about the gospel, learning about the good news Jesus has given us, that he has paid our sin debt in full, and he has offered us this gift of salvation. Unfortunately, because your black woman is more caught up in getting these gifts from men and gifts from the world, she is not interested in building that spiritual foundation in Jesus Christ, or receiving that gift of salvation, something that everyone can get for free, but she's more concerned with what she can get in the world. So she's not interested in these things. And again, that all goes back to that spiritual miseducation, which has her believing that if she goes to church on Sunday and is listening to this black pastor, that she is learning about Christ, but in actuality, she is learning about a false Christ, because this black pastor willfully and intentionally does not teach this black woman about the spiritual foundation she needs to build. And this black pastor often goes along with this black woman, who is also his co-conspirator, and both of them have made this compromise because they want to make friends with mammon and want to get the gifts of this world rather than receive the blessings of the living God, a God who would give them anything in this world if they acknowledge that they are sinners and acknowledge that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, paid their sin debt in full, and Jesus Christ's gift of salvation. They don't want that gift of salvation, and they don't want to trust in the living God because they have no faith in the living God. It looks like they have faith on the outside, but on the inside, spiritually, these people are lost. And they're lost, again, due to that foundation that is built on that sinking sand, and that spiritual miseducation your black woman receives. And that spiritual miseducation is something that she teaches her sons and her daughters, and they are believing they are following Christ, when in actuality they are following a false Christ. And this is why it's important for every black man and every black woman to read their Bible for themselves and not go with the black pastor, because the black pastor, he teaches a false religion based on the Bible, but he does not teach you the principles of the Bible that are the most important. Because when you get a spiritual education from the living God and the Holy Spirit, you understand the importance of the roles in God's natural order, because those are the most important things, because that is your spiritual foundation. And from there, you can grow in a relationship with Jesus Christ, because when you have that spiritual foundation, then as you are built on that rock, you can then grow and develop a closer and more intimate relationship with God. And as you grow more and more in God, you start to understand things a lot better about life. And the things that you understand the most is that God's natural order is one of the most important things in that spiritual education, and it's that base that allows everything to be in this world. And this is the big other problem with your black woman, is that she thinks that she can go outside of God's natural order, but God's natural order will not be broken, it will not be changed, and any attempt to change it will wind up falling down, because, again, the foundation of anything outside of God's natural order is built on sinking sands, and it is not built on the rock of Jesus Christ and the kingdom. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.